Hello everybody, this is Vibhor here. Welcome back to my channel. Since the dawn of time, a question has been haunting us. Should we purchase the MacBook Pro or the MacBook Air? And now because both the systems are pretty much the same, the processors, the internals and everything are pretty much the same, the question is even more tougher. So I'm gonna answer this for you in this video. And let me tell you one thing, I have personally selected MacBook Pro as my final driver. Why is that? I'll answer that in this very video. We're going to compare the two products based on 6 categories: portability, battery performance, screen, touch bar and speaker cum microphones. Let's get started. So if we talk about portability, both the devices are pretty much the same with regards to the dimensions. They are all the same from the 4 sides. MacBook Air definitely has got a taper front, which does not really bother me much. But with regards to the weight, they are also the same with regards to the weight. MacBook Pro is 90 grams heavier, which would not make or break a decision with regards to portability. Now, because I know left hand has MacBook Air, I definitely feel it's a bit lighter, but if I close my eyes, I would definitely not feel which side is heavier. When it comes to the battery life, definitely MacBook Pro has got 2 hours extra battery. Now still, both the devices has got excellent battery conditions, excellent battery performances. We're talking 17 hours versus 19 hours, and I'm used to my older MacBook Pro, the 16 inches, which gives me roughly around 7 to 8 hours of battery life. So this is definitely handy. The battery is really amazing. But now because of the COVID and all restrictions, I've been working everything from home, my office, my clients, everything I've been handling from home, and sitting on my day job at this desk for 8 hours. I do not want video editing and everything to be done on the same desk. So I like to just carry my laptop with me in daytime, probably over the weekends. If I'm free, I would just take my car, go ahead on a beach, sit in an isolated location, and I like to do my editing over there. So that extra 2 hours of battery would definitely mean good for me. I can work off that extra 2 hours on that laptop. So that is one of the decision criteria because of which I have selected MacBook Pro as my final driver. Also, when we talk about the performance of the two systems, both of them has got M1 chip, but MacBook Pro has got 1 extra core of GPU. Now, based on my work, that 1 extra core would definitely not mean a lot because I do not do very high graphic intensive work. But if you are doing a super heavy graphic intensive work, that 1 core can actually come in handy. Also, MacBook Pro has got fan for its thermal cooling. Now, I do video editing occasionally. I do not do 8 hours of video editing in a day. In my last 1 month of working on MacBook Pro or MacBook Air, I have not seen any difference in the performance in the two devices. MacBook Pro, I have not seen the fan come to life ever in the last 1 month. So I had a chat with the Apple's marketing team. So what they said was, like, if you are using the two devices, the peak performance of both the devices are going to be the same because both of them has got the M1 chips. But for sustained performance, for sustained long performances, if you are doing, say, graphic intensive work, if you're playing games for a long time, for 3-4 hours at a stretch, and your processor really needs that power, then the fan is going to kick in. So I personally, my entire work day does not involve video editing or high-end graphic intensive work, and I do not play definitely games on my MacBooks. So that is not a deal breaker for me. MacBook Air would have been okay, but then I just went with MacBook Pro because it definitely has that extra fan. And I don't know, like if one day I would be doing lots of video editing in that one single day and I want to crunch everything in one day, probably that might help me out. But yeah, for you, like if you are not actually too much into graphic intensive work and you do not have to work like 6, 7, 8 hours in a day on the high-end graphic work, I don't think MacBook Pro would be required. MacBook Air would be more than enough. Now, if we talk about the screen on two devices, MacBook Pro can definitely have that 100 nits extra screen. So the brightness of MacBook Pro can go till 500 nits and MacBook Air can go till 400 nits. Now, that's one of the reasons why I'm going for MacBook Pro. Though in general, I never cross 400 nits. But then, as I said, like sometimes I just go to beach and I'll sit on the side of the beach and start editing my videos. At that time, in bright daylight, in bright sunlight, that extra 100 nits would definitely mean like you can have more visibility of the screen. So that's why I chose MacBook Pro for me. But then realistically, I don't think that 100 nits extra brightness on your screen would actually make or break your decision. That is why for majority of people, I would say MacBook Air would be enough. The screen of MacBook Air is nice, crisp, and the brightness is optimum if you're working indoors. Now, another thing which definitely beautifies your Mac is the touch bar. Now, I do not use touch bar a lot, but when I'm doing editing on Final Cut Pro, those extra buttons that can come on the touch bar, they definitely come handy. The cut, clip, and all those buttons I just have handy on the touch bar, and I can use them whenever I want to use for a quick edit. So definitely that's one of the factors for which I selected MacBook Pro. Though realistically, many people, they just like the hardware switches on MacBook Air. They do not go for MacBook Pro. But yes, that's one thing which is more user specific, I would say. Now, another factor which drove me towards MacBook Pro is the microphones on that. Now, the MacBook Air has got the single baseline microphone that we are used to on many other Mac models, but MacBook Pro has got the studio quality 3-array microphone system. That's the same microphone which I've got on my 16 inches MacBook Pro, and I've been using that since last 7 months now, and that is a really good microphone. I do a lot of video chats, a lot of video calls, and a lot of conferences for which I do not attach any external microphone. Just having that peace of mind that I can be sitting on an airport and I can actually do that conference and video chat, and I can have that podcast and everything done through my MacBook itself, and the voice is gonna go super crystal clear through that microphone. That's appealing to me. So that is why I've selected MacBook Pro. That is also one of the crucial factors. The microphone on MacBook Pro is really good as compared to the microphone on MacBook Air. So guys, these are all the factors because of which I have moved towards MacBook Pro. But realistically, the performance and everything in MacBook Pro and MacBook Air are pretty much the same. Everybody who is asking me whether they should be purchasing a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro, like 95% of the people, I just say go ahead, purchase your MacBook Air. Do not go for MacBook Pro. That extra $300-400 that you're spending on MacBook Pro, you can actually, if you want, you can upgrade the RAM of MacBook Air and make a 16 GB RAM to have it more future proof. But realistically, you do not need MacBook Pro if you're not doing super graphic intensive work 5 to 6 hours at least every day at a single stretch. So what do you think? What are you going for, MacBook Air or MacBook Pro? Do let me know in the comment section below. If you have any further questions, do let me know. I will be happy to help you out. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed, please do subscribe to the channel. I make videos about technology and about how to get successful on YouTube. I will see you again in the next video, guys. Bye.